Welcome back, everybody, to the next session in room 3. It's called Creating a Sustainable Development, and I'm going to hand over to Anna Cumming, who's the MC for the session. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Damien. Thank you very much. And welcome to everybody to this next session in room 3. As Damien said, our topic today is creating a sustainable development community or village. It features panellists from several eco villages and sustainable developments that have homes open for Sustainable House Day today. My name is Anna Cumming. I'm the editor of Sanctuary Modern Green Homes magazine, which is published by Renew, the organiser of Sustainable House Day. I have a particular interest in sustainable residential design, both in terms of environmental sustainability and also social and financial sustainability. What draws me to the idea of eco-villages and sustainable developments is their scope to address all 3 of these goals. And all of the developments we're looking at today have prioritised energy efficient, high performing and livable homes, as well as creating opportunities for residents to build community with all the benefits that sharing facilities, skills and resources can bring. There are various video tours available already on the Sustainable House Day website that are associated with the 4 developments that we're going to be talking about today. I hope you've had a chance to have a look at some of those. If not, they're still there, so you can go and have a look afterwards. And if you don't get your question answered today, I'm sure that we're not going to have time to get through everybody's questions. There's the opportunity to go onto the Sustainable House Day website, onto those particular developments pages and ask questions in the comments there. So what I'm going to do now is ask each of our panellists to introduce themselves, and then we'll get the discussion underway. You can ask questions using the Q&A feature in Zoom, and as I said, we'll get to as many of them as we can. So first, I'd like to welcome Brendan Condon from the Cape Eco Village in Gippsland, Victoria. Go for it, Brendan. Welcome.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. So we're here at the Cape today. We're building a sustainable estate averaging around 8-star energy efficiency across all the builds so far. The estate's gas-free. The homes are comfortable year-round during hot spells and cool times. With very low running costs, averaging around $500 a year, with many residents zeroing their bills. We also have urban farming, a lot of biodiversity restoration, water efficiency, and so on. So really enjoying watching the Cape come to life.
Thanks, Brendan. Next up, we have Neil and Heather Barrett from the Paddock Eco Village in Castlemaine, Victoria. Welcome, you two. You're going to need to turn your microphone on.
Sorry. I'm Heather and this is Neil. We're at the Paddock Eco Village, which is in the northwest edge of Castlemaine, and Castlemaine's a little dynamic town of about 8,000 people in central Victoria, and we're about 1.5 kilometres from the post office and walking distance from the train. The train runs between Melbourne and Bendigo and runs on the hour, so a lot of people commute. The paddock consists of 27 houses, a community centre, native gardens and about 1 acre of food growing gardens. A dam supplies the water for the gardens and the chooks, and we're keeping cars to the perimeter so that the focus is on people, not cars. And we're working under the guiding philosophy of the Living Building Challenge, which is a very rigorous global standard addressing energy, water, health, beauty, materials, equity. And we have quite a hoops to jump through to meet each of those requirements. They're all electric houses averaging above 8 stars. They're all 2-storied houses, and bricks and timber or flooring are all recycled. We've finished stage 1, which was 8 houses, and we're now constructing stage 2, which is 4 houses, and another stage 3 is another 4 houses just about to start, and we'll be doing the final 10 houses next year if all goes well. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Next up, we have Jessica Stewart from Gin and Dairy. I hope I'm saying that right, Jess, in Canberra.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yumalundi means welcome in Ngunnawal language. I'm presenting today on Ngunnawal land here at Ginninderry. Ginninderry actually means sparkling light on water in Ngunnawal as well. So you'll see our little spark logos around the place, and that they change as light reflects off water. So Ginninderry is a little bit different to probably some of the other eco villages today. We have a 40-year project where we will be building a community of about 30 to 40,000 residents over that time. With that, we have a vision to be a sustainable community of international significance. So as sustainability manager for Ginninderry, that's a huge opportunity and also quite daunting for me to try and future-proof and lift the bar for industry over that time. We're meeting in the Link building today. It's our first multi-purpose centre for the development. And we also have it's called our GX Display Village open today for Sustainable House Day, where we have 16 homes. All of those homes are 7-star and above, all have electric vehicle charging points. All of Ginninderry is fully electric. And for that, the associated, water sensitive urban design, we are bounded by the Murrumbidgee River and Ginninderra Creek. We have Ginninderra Falls, which are a big waterfall system here as well. Looking at ways to, again, not just work with the people that already know about sustainability, but how we actually move the bar for the builders, for the landscape architects and our architects, and for our residents. So really exciting to share where we are with Ginninderry and to look at how the new residents become the custodians of the land that we have here as well.
Great, thanks Jess. And last up from Narara Eco Village on the New South Wales Central Coast, we have Lyndall, Parris and Verena, Mclean. Hello. You're going to need to unmute yourselves. You're going to need to unmute yourselves, thank you.
Oh, that's strange. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we just said last but not least. So, So my name is Lyndall, Parris, and I'm the founder of Narara Eco Village. And this is my colleague and friend, Verena Mclean, and she's the chair of our board at the moment too. So Narara Eco Village is about a 68-hectare property, about an hour out of Sydney. I mean, we're calling it on the fringe of Sydney these days, really. We purchased the Gosford Horticultural Institute back in 2012, and it's the most beautiful piece of land in the world. I'd like to make that claim right now. If you can just picture a forest and a stream and a floodplain, 45 megalitre dam, not too far from the coast, suburban facilities nearby, not too far from the north-south Sydney-Brisbane train too. We can also walk to the station, which is a great advantage. So at that time we set up a cooperative, and we didn't want to set up a company. We're not trying to make profits for third-party shareholders, and we are developing in 3 stages. Basically it's community, the cooperative does the development, but then we sell the blocks community title freehold. And our lawyer said to describe that as sort of like strata. It's a bit like horizontal strata. So it's a very different project. It's very community driven, because we actually started with people first before we had any idea where we were going to get this land or buy this land. We don't have a bank involved. And when we make a surplus, it will go back to the community for the community to decide, what we'll do with it. We currently have about 180 people involved in the project, pretty much ranging in age from about 8 months. We don't know of any buns in the oven, but there might be a few buns in the oven, not sure about that. 8 months through to about 80. And we have 40 children involved in the project too, which is great. We've got 40 homes, it's all about 40. We've got 40 homes built in stage 1 out of 60, and stage 1 is fully subscribed. Stage 2 now is on the go. The development application's in with the Central Coast Council, which is our local council, and we're expecting a positive outcome kind of any day now, really. I guess the interest in Narara Eco Village is just enormous at the moment, and we've got theories on why that might be. And it certainly seems to be a project that's just, this time has come, and I hope that many of you are feeling the same, you know, that it's not pushing kind of, you know, the wheelbarrow uphill as perhaps it was 20 years ago. So we've survived the global pandemic, and and also, of course, the global financial crisis back in 2008. And we feel that we're quite resilient now to face, you know, a pretty sensational future together. So you're just sitting there saying nothing. Would you like
Unusually.
So Verena might just talk about the demonstration aspects of our Eco Village.
Yes, as Lindell was mentioning, we're in the middle of stage one and the building of stage one, and people making the transition to actually living in a village. So the dream coming to fruition. It's been a number of years, really. And with that, we've had things like the coffee cart, different uses of different buildings being made, but all for the benefit of the community. And part of our mission is really to be a demonstration eco village. So we have strong links with GEN, the Global Eco Village Network, in terms of looking at how their 4 pillars and how we develop not just one side, but an integrated, looking at the sociological, the environmental, the economic, and the land, how it all integrates together. And that's very much what the Global Eco Village Network's pillars are all about. And it's still a little bit in dream form, but we hope to look at how we generate electricity, how we actually learn to live very closely aligned to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And my dream is that if we can get all the eco villages to have the UN SDGs as part of how they measure and how they direct themselves, collectively we'll have a far greater force for good in this region and within the world as far as the UN SDGs is concerned. But it's a fascinating project. We never have a dull moment, as I'm sure you all know. You know, council willing, we're hopeful to have stage 2, and then that'll bring a whole new ratchet up in terms of lots of stuff to do.
Great, thank you very much, you two.
And could we just say one thing this morning, you know, because we want to be a demonstration eco village. This morning, about 14 of us were sort of in a room doing meditation from 9 till 10, and the Sustainable House Day had started outside, you know, and people were buying coffee, and we had no blinds on the windows, you know, and I sort of was listening to the rain and sort of trying to zen out, and this woman said, oh, look, they're doing something tantric in there. But we thought, oh, well, here we are demonstrating it.
Very good. So thank you very much for your introductions, everybody. We're going to get into some questions now. So I thought I'd start just with a fairly general question, and I hope that some of you can share what the main benefits of living in a community or development like the ones you're involved with might be, briefly.
So I think we're, as Lindell was saying, we're in New South Wales, and what a year it's been. And the first quarter of this year was really facing into the fires, which were a very real and constant threat. And for me, it was the showcasing of the community that brought the resilience in how we were prepared, well informed. Everyone was taking care of everybody else. There was a real social fabric that created this incredible force that we came through that relatively, you know, not unscathed, but stronger together. So it was the communication, it was the community, it was knowing everybody, caring for everyone. And that to me was the real benefit and what I'm in it for.
And that's not to mention the pandemic, you know, which was quick on its heels. So that was really lovely to see too. You know, people coming back from overseas, having to go into 2 weeks. This is before the hotel quarantine. Quarantine. They were you know, we got this email from Rob and what's her name? Rob and doesn't matter, his wife. And he said, please, no more chocolate or wine on the doorstep.
Okay, would anybody else like to have an input into that question?
Yeah, in our case, I think, well, from talking to the 7 families living there at the moment, they've appreciated living in an environmentally good place with low energy bills, and in some cases not needing to use aircon hardly at all during summer and that sort of thing. The pandemic has meant that community has been terribly important, so people can come outside their houses and have a chat easily with people next door, have little meetings. It's just been terribly supportive for them. And yeah, they're just generally appreciating the environment of Castlemaine, being able to be on the edge of town. So it's sort of in semi-bush and all that.
From the Cape's point of view, the homes are very resilient during heat waves, and they're just beautifully comfortable, effortlessly year round. I'm sitting in a court bowl of around 10 houses. In a normal estate, that court bowl of 10 houses would have an annual energy bill of maybe $25,000 to $30,000. I think this court bowl would have a combined energy of maybe $5,000. So it's a huge saving. Many people here are zeroing their energy bills. We've got long range electric cars coming in where people are zeroing their petrol bills. We're also seeing with our lots of home farms and food sharing. So there's a real food culture generating here at the Cape that'll be turbocharged with a big urban farm we're building. And then also socially positive design and great human connection with the walking tracks and the micro parks. So lots of great relational stuff, which is an antidote to loneliness, which is built into a lot of modern urban form.
Yeah, and so at Ginninderry, we have about 70 households that have now moved in since February, when first residents moved in. And you'll probably see some of them wandering around behind us because this is our both our project office but also our multi-purpose centre. So they are, providing places where people can gather even through COVID, and having community catch-ups that we can just check in on people, I think has been really important. As Brendan said, local food production has gone through the roof. So we've just installed an indoor automated vertical garden into the link as well. You might hear the motor running just behind me, but so that the community can come and pick up their herbs, their coriander and dill and kale and things that are currently in there. And I think providing opportunities for not only that dedicated time for people to come and connect, but just interactions between the community has been really important.
Thanks, Jess. So a question from the Q&A from our attendees. Welcome everybody again, if you're watching. From Molly, is this the same idea as co-housing, and what support does the government provide for this community idea, particularly for women alone or for those who find housing unaffordable? Or difficult to afford, I guess.
I'm pretty sure that most of the sort of lots of the eco villages that we've got today are quite different in that, but I might just talk about Ginninderry just to kick it off. So Ginninderry is actually a joint venture with the ACT government. So a 60-40 joint venture where we've got a private farmer that we work for and the ACT government. So in terms of ACT government support for more sustainable housing, it's been a really interesting one where we are seen as sort of that pilot and testing place that they can't do a lot of things in their other developments around the ACT. With that then also comes an interest in affordable housing. So we have some houses down to a 90 square metre block that we provide affordable housing, where we design, coordinate the architecture for house and land packages for people that earn under 120,000 gross income, don't have another property, and they need to live in that house for 3 years. That's specifically targeted not only to first home buyers, but for women coming out of divorces or that don't have a lot of assets. We're seeing a real range of people taking up those types of housing. And for us, it's important not to think about affordable housing just from an upfront cost, but also affordable living. So again, as Brendan said, that reducing energy costs by doing things like double glazing, making sure all of those are solar, and have those systems in place so that you can look at affordable housing over time.
Thanks, Jess. Neil, you're nodding. Looks like you've got something to add there.
Well, we didn't I think that was a complex question. It was about whether there was government support. We haven't had any government support for what we're doing, although the local council is interested and has helped us, hasn't it, to an extent, but certainly not financially. We didn't come from the co-housing background where we had a group of people who had a vision and then went for it, and so it really came from Neil and I wanting to do something positive with this land that we had, and that our background in sustainability and climate change action, that we thought, well, let's put our money where our mouth is and do something with this land that we've got as a legacy, and then see who comes along. And interestingly, because it is quite a close community of houses, literally close, they're sharing walls. Each group of houses, the 4 houses, have their adjoining wall to their neighbour, and it has attracted very much weighted to women on their own, or even though in there saying that we've got 2 families with we're talking about 8 houses that we've done. We haven't got a huge amount like you others, but within that we've got a couple of young couples with toddlers, but those toddlers have certainly got some terrific aunts and instant aunts and grandmas. The first one who had a 1-year-old birthday, and people are almost fighting to be the babysitter, so they feel very supported, and I think that's a fantastic thing. One of the mothers of the baby, or the mother of the baby who's turned 1, is from America and doesn't have any extended family over here, so suddenly has an extended family, and that's been so cheering for us. We weren't actually, we were looking at star ratings and insulation and grey water and all those things. And it's like putting that together, the magic of the community has happened from the people who've come along. We haven't controlled who's come along or really had any say in that. It's who's put up their hand to buy in.
So what share facilities, another question that's come in from Liz Dunn, what share facilities does your community have as part of it? Is that the paddock? You can start, yep.
All right, well, what we've done is we've got a lot of shared land, and with the emphasis on food growing, and we've got shared native gardens and that, but we've also got a shared laundry that people can opt in or opt out of. So most of the small houses have all of the small houses have opted out of having a laundry, and they share the laundry. And we've learnt from some other eco village that could be a sore point for people. Oh, I don't want to have a communal laundry, I want my own. And it's actually turned out to be the heart of the village. They end up meeting there more than the community centre that's provided. That's where they'll swap things, and in ours in particular, what's happened already is they're really keen, all the residents, on recycling, and the communal laundry's become the hub of that. So everybody, we've got all these buckets with what can get recycled within what we've been able to reach out within our village to, learn about recycling, haven't we? And that's become the hub of it, and that's where shared things happen actually a little bit more than the community house.
So the community house has also got a B&B upstairs, so that'll be something for relatives, and we tell people, look, there's no need for that 3rd or 4th bedroom that gets used for 3 weeks a year. You can use the space in the community centre.
So I'm interested
just finished. It'll also be an income earner for the owners' corporation to rent out. So, but the virus has got in the way of that, so nothing has started lately.
What about you, Brendan? At the Cape, what sort of shared facilities are you incorporating in your development?
So we have 50% open space and kilometres of walking and cycling paths, and a whole lot of pocket parks and large parks. We have a shared off-leash dog park to allow people to have their dog to have a run, and then on leash out in the wildlife land for wildlife zone, which is the rest of the property. We have an urban farm, and we're about to build out the whole urban farm. It'll have community buildings, a nursery, market garden area, as well as individual growing areas, beekeeping, poultry, and a space for the community to meet together. So I think that's going to be terrific. And we also have electric vehicle fast chargers as well. the whole estate is managed by a body corporate arrangement.
Great, thanks. Next question from Kylie in South Australia. She would like to know, how did you get started? I think this is probably a question on the tip of the mind of many people who are interested in this kind of community living, sustainable eco village type lifestyle. From my own research, I understand that there are lots of different frameworks for these kinds of developments. And I know that many people find it very daunting to know how to get started. So what would your top tip be for somebody wanting to get started?
Well, I guess our top tip would definitely be all about people. You know, if you can tap into everybody's dreams so that they can feel that, you know, they have a say in the dream as well, and that they can influence this dream. It's amazing how people are quite ready to invest in that dream as well, because it touches on theirs. So I'd say the people thing first. But the other thing I'd say is, you know, I don't know how quickly you can do it. You know, I don't feel that you can't do anything like this, but perhaps there's a little bit of divine time frame in it too, because I know, you know, Dave and I've just moved into our house, and it's been 21 years kind of in the, you know, from the very beginning or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it is all about people, and if you can tap into that dream, then it flows very amazingly. You know, every time we've needed somebody, they've come along. We needed a lawyer, here comes a lawyer. We've needed a plumber, here comes a plumber. We've needed a doctor, here comes. We needed, you know, IT people, and they seem to sort of come and be attracted. And so I think there's a little something in sort of staying open to what is, but it's the people side of things. We definitely started through the social door, and then of course you come through the social door, and it leads you to the environmental door, and certainly the economics. If you haven't got economic sustainability, you may as well forget it now, because 9 out of 10 of these projects don't get up, you know. So it's you know, it's that balance of bottom line sustainability that is so key, even though today, of course, we're focused on Sustainable House Day and perhaps the environmental side of things more, but it's the social side that carries a lot of it in our thoughts. Do you agree?
Yeah, I always call it the mix between the soft and the hard. So it's the people and it's the bringing along, but you've got to have the hard hat with the finances, the governance, bringing council along, knowing what your DA, what you can and can't do. So you have to have both of those things and kind of in parallel.
Yeah. Would anybody else like to weigh in on that?
We started because I worked with the mainstream property industry doing wetlands and biodiversity work, and I've seen hundreds of estates that I saw were sorely lacking in energy efficiency. They weren't climate adapted. They weren't setting those communities up well for the future. And after lots of arguments with developers about why don't you build more energy efficient estates, and they said there's no demand for it. So I just decided to get off the soapbox, find a site and build from first principles. We led with lots of research to find the most cost-effective way to hit operationally carbon neutral housing. And we layered up with biodiversity, expertise and a whole range of things. And then we were just clear about who we were. And I think that's really important. We've attracted like-minded people, and we're really trying to drag the whole mainstream industry into a more carbon neutral space. So that's really what we're trying to do, is really influence the major developers.
So I guess there's another answer to the question that is just coming up for me, listening to you, Brendan, and also to the Narara folk, is that there's another option. You can start your own. You can get started yourself to create your own eco village, find like-minded people and so forth. Or another path is to look around and see what other people are already doing and get in on it. For example, by buying into the Cape, if that's a possibility, or to the paddock, an existing eco village or sustainable development that's already going.
We have quite a few people approaching us now saying, hey, we've got land. Can we do something like this?
Yeah, great. And
so far I haven't heard of anything actually coming to fruition, because I've sat down and said, well, there's quite a few hours involved in and a fair bit of money in the early stages. But in our case, it was pretty much top down. We've had the land for close to 40 years. Always wondered what we were going to do about it that could be useful rather than having a housing development take it when we sell for whatever reason. So we found we have been working with an architect for quite a few years on another project, and we started with him, and then we appointed a project manager. And I know I've talked to Brendan in the past about the essential task of the project manager, and that has really helped us get it off the ground, you know, because we didn't have the skills ourselves really. So if you can afford a good project manager early on, that really can give a spurt to the development.
Right. The next question is specifically for you, Jess. Jeff Robinson would like to know if you can tell us about the Green Star community rating for gin and dairy and the benefit it brings to the community.
Yeah, good old Jeff. Hello. Gin and Dairy is certified under the Green Building Council of Australia's Green Star Communities rating system. We chose that because it was one of the better triple bottom line rating tools that we found for communities. So that real look at both the social sustainability and economic sustainability, as well as obviously the environmental sustainability, was really important for us. Again, because we are such a long-term development too, the GBCA and the way that the star rating and rating tools work is that they will change as the thinking around world leadership will change. So for us, in a 40-year development, it was really important to have a peak body that was going to be around for that time frame, and one that was encouraging to help lift the bar for the rest of the industry too. So that's why we've gone for them. We look at the GBCA and our Green Star Communities rating as our sort of third-party verification of our credentials. That we don't use it as a tick and flick exercise where if it says we have to be have water sustainable, water design, that we do it. It's more about making sure that that verification is there, and also working with industry. We don't have to recreate the wheel every time that we do a new eco village or a new community design. There's so many wonderful experts in Australia and around the world that do this stuff all of the time. And for us, it's about learning and building on those pillars rather than just recreating the wheel each time that we do a development.
Yeah, great, thanks, Jess. And we're getting to the end, probably time for a couple more questions. Simon would like to know how you've all financed your developments. Did you find it hard getting finance for the projects, and what are your tips for finding funding and capital partners, if that's appropriate? Who'd like to take that one first?
Well, we can certainly tell you how we did it, and we used, I think we certainly used people's money, up front, but it took quite a while to get that trust in us. And we had to get our structures in place too, so that people, before they would open their wallets, had to see, well, there's, some expertise here, and there's some passion here, and they have the ability to do it, to actually sort of do that. So that's really important to have that demonstrating first. But then we knew it was going to be so difficult to go to a bank. And quite honestly, I mean, don't tell anybody else, but we probably wouldn't be here today if we, had to go to a bank, really. I'm sure they would have come in on us, because we've taken so long to do the development, because we're sort of pushing the boundaries a little bit with council and things, and always having to sort of, backtrack on things. So if we didn't use people, and it was just terrific that we paid $5 million for our land, and we knew to put in a tender for $5 million, we had to raise $4 million. And in one night, we raised $2 million of promises. And that wasn't enough, because we knew that that would not be enough. We had to have promises of about $4 million. And in 2 weeks, we had that. It was like, put up or shut up. This is the most amazing piece of land that New South Wales government have had it for 100 years. They had the ability to choose this amazing piece of land. This is it. There's no other place like this. And so we moved forward and we did it that way. So we used people forward paying their lots, and then also lending money to the co-op. But it was all about cooperative members lending money to the co-op. There might be one or two people from outside, but And then we gave a reasonable rate of interest, you know, so it was a bit of an enticement for people to put their money into the project. And so that's how we got started, and that's Narara.
It was called the Mad Weekend.
Neil and Heather, I think you probably have something to say about funding this kind of a development too.
We started off, well, we had the land, which was very helpful, but then there's an awful lot of cost in getting, you know, a team of up to, at various times, we're employing something like 20 people, I believe. I lost track of it at times, but there's an awful lot of cost up front to get up to the position where council actually approve of the whole thing. So that took, you know, probably 2.5 years or so.
Of our own money at that
we
point.
were using our own money. We just sold a business reasonably successfully. We used up all that, sold all liquid assets, and then we moved to the banks, and we had the most horrific time with a couple of banks that are still should be ashamed of themselves. But now with NAB, and they've been terrific, I have to say. But we're also, they supply about 3/4 of the money we need each round, and then we are very dependent on friends and relatives and whatever to come up with reasonably low interest money after that. But NAB are pretty flexible in what they'll provide. Pardon me.
Look like you're listening. Oh, God,
in
sorry.
addition as well. What's that?
Cut you off, sorry.
No, I've finished. So it's been a combination of using what we had and then moving to the bank, and then as well as other sources. Yeah.
My advice would be don't go into debt, and bring in ethical investors and patient capital who are really aligned, value aligned. I'm very lucky that I've got that in the Cape. Some of our directors are listening in, and they've all bought places in there. They've all put aside lots in the Cape. Really important not to get into that stress. It takes longer than you would think. Unfortunately, it does take longer than you would think.
Thanks, Brendan. Okay, yeah, probably time for one more question. So Cara would like to know, how has the COVID pandemic changed plans for community living? Are you noticing different desires and responses and questions and so forth from people that you're speaking to about the possibility of coming and living in your communities?
So I think, sorry, I hope you don't mind if we come in.
Go on.
But I think it's been a blessing in disguise, and in a horrible disguise. And certainly we've had more interests coming in, people really wanting to be, as Brendan was saying, in that kind of community, wanting shared things, wanting to be less lonely. So it really has heightened the reputation and heightened what we have to offer and made it more attractive. So yes, there has been definitely a difference. Obviously, you know, we're doing things on Zoom, and we'd far rather be in a room with all of you guys, but there are people walking around our village as we speak. And there is, I think, again, a heightened awareness of this is a really viable alternative living option that could provide an antidote to a lot of the things modern society has created, as well as be sustainable, as well as reduce your footprint. You know, we've got a very smart grid and our electricity is great. So, but anyway, yes, to answer the question, it's highlighted the benefits of living in an eco village.
Thank you. Anybody else? Brendan?
I was going to say, Jessica, you got some comments?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting that our land sales through COVID have gone up a lot more than we thought, and there's also been a lot more people thinking about, particularly, you know, in making their homes more sustainable and more resilient. I think not only for COVID and for, you know, reducing electricity, but also through the bushfires as well, and making sure that those are bushfire resilient homes as much as possible. So yeah, we again, that sort of, you know, it's a crisis in disguise, I suppose, a little bit, but it has been a really interesting one, that people have just taken stock of where they live, how they're living, and how they're interacting with their neighbours.
Yeah.
And I would just say we're listening, you know, we're quite close to Melbourne, about an hour and 3/4 from Melbourne on the coast here. We've got broadband, fibre optic to the home, And we've seen our sales increase during COVID. People love having very low energy bills, and just the community contact here has been great. People have been socially distancing, but there hasn't been a degradation of social contact, just through good social design in the estate. So that's been fantastic here.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear, Brendan.
And just one more thing is, we have a 600 hectare conservation corridor too, and I think people having the ability to actually go and explore the countryside that they're living in has been a really valuable thing, and the local community, and buying and shopping a bit more locally than they probably would have too. Sorry to cut you off, Neil.
Yeah, so I'd just say all of the above, really. I can see all of those points you've made ringing true.
And the food growing is a big thing.
Yeah, we were about to embark on stage 2 with 8 houses in March when it all hit, and a few people got concerned about future incomes and whatever. So we did have quite a blip then, but it's all back on track now, fortunately. So we're pretty happy about it. Yeah.
Great. Well, that's time, folks. Thank you so much for being here with me and chatting about sustainable developments and eco villages and how to do them better. As I said right at the beginning, I'm very interested in what I guess you can call the triple bottom line of this kind of living, which is environmentally sustainable and also socially and financially sustainable. And I can see that you guys all have great. Heather, you wanted to say something?
Well, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to see the faces and meet the others who we've read about online and interested in all that you're doing. And it's terrific. I know Neil's met Brendan, but we haven't all seen each other before, so it's terrific.
Absolutely. And I just want to let people know that that there are videos available on the Sustainable House Day website for all of the open houses involved today in the estates that in the developments we've been talking about. You can go and watch them and ask questions of the developers on the website. We also, in the last issue of Sanctuary magazine, we also ran an article on sustainable communities and collaborative housing. So I recommend you go and have a look at that. Have I missed anything? Thank you so much thank you to all of our attendees for listening in today, and thank you Neil and Heather, Brendan, Jess, Lyndall and Verena for sharing your expertise with us today.